Okay, welcome back. In this session, we're going to create user-based or user group-based collections. In the previous session, we talked about the devices and the device collections. Now, very similar to that, you can also create user collections. Here, if you could see here, the default collections are all user groups as well as all users. That means entire user accounts are only 2 in this case. And if you go back to the user collections, there are user groups. So there are more user groups like domain users, domain guest, controller, computers. Like that, you have multiple groups. Okay. Now, we're going to create a user group first. To do that, like user collections, create a user collection. Now, give a user collection group. Maybe, for example, username specific. Some username may be like administrator, you wanna target example. So you're making all users as a target. And now here you have the same options like include, exclude, what we have seen in the device collection membership, the same options you have. But here including even the direct and the query also. In the direct rule, if you click on it, same wizard it starts, but here it says that what kind of resource you are actually pulling up the information. So you can give here the information for the user resource, and then say that I want a name, and then give a percentage as the star example, so that it will show you all the available users. So once all the available users are available, you can select as a direct user and then click on next, so that that specific user gets added as a direct membership. And the similarly incremental as well as the full update, all these are options are available. As a recommendation on the collections, if you use more than 50 and above incremental collection updates, the SCCM console may behave not properly. So the people request people also tested till 200 different collections, but it is not recommended beyond crossing more than 200 to 500 between. If you start creating, it all depends on the SCCM server scalability and other things, so it's not recommended. If you really need it, then only enable that option, otherwise SCCM server gets hung state, especially the collection component. Now the username got created. If the user has been added to that specific collection, you can see here that username. So this is how you create for a direct. If we talk about how to create based on a AD security group, so I can give here as AD group based description. So I'm gonna say that all, limiting to all groups, not the users this time. Then click on next. Again, I can write a query if I want, or direct rule. So I'm gonna use query rule this time. Again, you have the import options. If you are specific to all user groups query, you can do it, or all AD security groups. So in my case, I'm gonna use all. No, not all. Maybe we'll take it as the SCCM servers example. So there was a group, right, we created, and let's edit that and target that. So if you go back here, select, you have very less of them, right? So here you can check for the user resource. Okay, and under user resource you have the group name, username, user group name, and say equals to, lot of groups are available now. So for example, if I want to target for domain users or domain admins, I can get it here. Similarly, I can create multiple AD groups, and that AD groups can be visible in this case. Let's also select other resource type. So these are different when you're using other options like complaints manager. In this case, then these rules can be created. We can check that later point, but not now, as this is specific to the users only collection. Okay, and if you want, furthermore, you can also create one more method, which is instead of user, you can create as a user group resources. In this, you would get more group names. You can check it. The major difference between that and this I'm going to show you in a minute, but name here equals to, you are getting here a number of more than, I mean close to 21, whatever it was, you're able to see that all you're able to see here. So what is the difference between this and that? This is a user group resource, and that is specific to here user resource. That means if a user is part of that, so if you remember, the schema admins was reported, so here the admins were reported, so user specific, and domain admins also reported, but it was not reported. For example, SCCM servers was not reported, example, because it is a part of computer. So you should be able to identify if you are targeting for a computer, then you should be using a different one, and if you have the users, you should be using a different group altogether. So let's create here one of the any of this method, maybe user group this time. Example, criteria, always to be the criteria, right? User group, and the group name. For example, in my case, I'm going to choose SCCM servers here, and next click OK, summary, and then finish. So now I have a group called AD group, especially for SCCM AD group. So I can update the collection membership, and then I can see here the user group as listed. So if I want to do any kind of targets, I should be able to see all these inventory has been already populated, so I can easily target. Since I have already explained on the device based groups as a in depth, this became as very easy for you to understand. And I'm gonna talk since I've already touched the collections. So related to the collections, there is a log file, so you should learn that log file. What is the log file? Collection evolution. So let me evaluate. In fact, let's go to the program files, and if you remember, configuration manager and the logs folder. In this SMS, okay, COL, which is a collection, SMS COL. Let's sort of the name. Okay, let's go back to the other method which can easily identify any component logs, right? So the method would be go to the system status, here component status. Here you can check it, the collection related. Let's sort with the component based. Here you can check it somewhere. So we got this. This is the SMS collection evaluator. So for this, the log file, if you want to see, simply either you can view it as a status messages like this, so that whatever we have done related to the collections, you should be able to see as a message, right? Right click all, and it is asking for last 1 day. If you are more specific for some other days, you can check it, these are the collections related log. And then if I go to the start configuration manager, service manager, which is another tool which will show you exact logs. Again, you need to find out where exactly that is located. So here it is, collection evaluator. Right click and query. You can see that the status is started. That means collections are working fine. As I said earlier, a SCCM server is a collection of different components. So sometimes some components may not work properly. So all you have to do is you have to use this service manager tool to check that status, and if you find that status as stopped, you can start it. Okay, for example, Active Directory discovery, by this time it should be in a stop state. You know why? Why it is in a stop state? Because the discovery cycle is not running now. If you start a discovery process, if you want to run it manually, you can start that component. So the component is started, and you can find the logs at this location, right? Similarly, for SCCM collection evaluator, there is a log here. You can go here and find collection evaluator, okay, call eval. So it has been renamed. So let's go to call eval. So collection evolution dot log file. So whatever the actions we have performed against to the SCCM server, SCCM collections, everything will be recorded here. I'm going to talk how to read this. In fact, any of the logs how to read, I'm going to show you an easiest way to understand as a next lab mostly. Okay, so this is all about a short lecture on collections, especially for user-based collections. Thank you for watching this.